kind of went their own ways.
Maybe. I don't know that most. I don't know.
Oh, I'll be right back. Don't kick me. I gotta get a hookup soon. So nothing illegal. Nothing nothing illegal. I just gotta meet a friend for a second. I'll be back in like 1 second. Please don't kick me.
Okay. Well, it's not full yet. Let me see. I don't know God's souls after all eyes. Jesus Christ never existed. '76. Hang on. '75. '76. Yeah, here we go. Oh, hello there. Whoever joined. I didn't see it. Okay. Sargon of God. Signing something that's a lot more clear. I wonder how long to be through right now. Mushrooms. I've heard I like them. Well, we'll see. I'll get back to the terminal very shortly. Hello.
Hi, I'm Pax.
Hi, Pax. Very good to meet you.
John and Belladonna and Pierre.
Oh, excellent. Very good to meet you.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Totally plugged in.
What's that?
Totally plugged in.
I am. I'm running, I guess the basement like too. Possibly, yes.
The film crowd.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I did come through then, though I wasn't trying to disturb the filming. And oh, it appears friend Clem Johnson. Very good to have you on. They're doing the argument from contingency in one, and I'm guessing Clem Johnson may prefer the transcendental argument.
Thanks.
Arcane / Cleanse. His usual handle is Arcane.
Last night I was a little drunk last night.
A little bit of both. Go ahead.
I was a little drunk last night. Yeah, we was talking a lot of stuff. I was a little drunk.
Always good to have a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to get a little drunk sometimes, but yeah, you have to be careful.
Well, do you think right here, right now, there are okay? So they'll be back in a few months. That's unfortunate. No, I don't like the effect. It doesn't bother me to, have it around me or anything though. I'm all good with the rest of everyone doing it. Check my AdSense revenue. YouTube earnings aren't showing. AdSense for content is very high. I'll probably show up around the 21st. authors going. Hosted AdSense for content. And how did I do for January? Ouch, not very good. Yeah, less than a third of what I got in December. Well, it seemed like people wanted to hop in here. Okay, Bob's back in anyway. Oh, Michael's talking. Are you aware of Bayard Rustin? Veckel. Veckel. Uh, uh, may I? Mm. Mm-hmm. Um. Uh,
Oh, hello, Desert.
Hello.
Hi. How are you? Good. I'm going to be sending Laser Thing? No. Really? That's such a great name. Laser Thing. Oh.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello, Desert. Very good to see you on.
Hello, Nadia. Nadia. Hey, Seamus. Can you hear me, Seamus?
Yeah, hey, I can hear you.
Okay,
I
cool.
hear you. Oh, good to have you on, Seamus. Yeah. Mm. Okay, sorry about that. I was, what do you got? Bayard Rustin to Beckel. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. Allahu Akbar, indeed. Yeah. Or I guess, Allahu Akbar, indeed. Yeah. Yes, I do know what it means. And welcome back, Darth Kitty. The argument for contingency is an interesting thing. Yeah. well, sort of, what is it, acyclicity or whatever it is I don't think entirely necessary for contingency. So, yeah, nothing akin to Munchausen trilemma would apply. Go ahead.
Are you talking to this room or the other room, Nadia?
Yeah.
Oh, this one, yeah.
Oh, you're talking to this room?
At least
Why
Yeah.
don't you think the Munchausen trilemma applies to contingent and necessity? Why?
Well, necessity is not a relation. So, or at least it's a single place relation, not a two-place relation. On the other hand, contingency, one thing being contingent on another, I mean, doesn't have a reason to deem cyclic contingency and such invalid in some way. Actually, also the usual sort of like Hilbert hotel affairs, pretty much give you, it's not really any reason to demand that contingency, sort of be like well-founded or finitely terminated or whatever. It's not. Go ahead.
I was going to say, that isn't just the Munchausen trilemma just simply when it comes to ask for like justification for the truth of a proposition, basically every justification you give, a further justification could be asked for that justification. And so if that happens in a regressive manner, it seems like the Munchausen trilemma, as I know it, and I'm not all that familiar with it, just says that once faced with such a thing, you would either have to, at some point, offer different definitions, and at some point, you'd have to argue in a circle, unless you appealed to an infinite regress. So there would be arguing in a circle, at some point repeating one of the justifications you offered for a previous justification, or you could always offer a different justification indefinitely, which would be an infinite regress, or you could stop at a foundational level and say these things are unjustified and foundational, and then accept them as axioms. But is that how you understand the Munchausen trilemma? Because I don't see a whole, I don't necessarily, okay, so you're basically saying that when it comes to contingent things, that because it's an ontological, basically it's an ontological state of affairs, not epistemic, the Munchausen trilemma is not necessarily in play. Is that what you're proffering?
Yeah, well, something akin to the Munchausen trilemma would not be in play, right? Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess I would agree with you in those respects, because I agree that the Munchausen trilemma is really an epistemic problem. But if you're forming, if we're talking about necessity and contingency, I mean, we're really talking about an ontological state of affairs. So, yeah, I would grant you that those things aren't necessarily objections.
Yeah, so, I mean, the idea that something entirely non-contingent would necessarily exist, can have a kind of resolution to the regression that just, things have, at base, in some respects, a cyclic kind of interconnection, right? Or sorry, intercontingency. Go ahead.
Can you say that one more time, Nadia? I lagged for just a second there.
Yeah, well, the argument for contingency carries out, sort of like a Munchausen trilemma sort of analysis, and In the case of things like contingency, though, you know, there's nothing wrong with just a cyclic resolution, right? That, you know, things are mutually, you know, intercontingent and so on, right?
So what problems do you see with the argument? Did you see the formulation I presented earlier?
Yeah, it's classical. Yeah, it's, well, not classical exactly, but, you know, Leibniz, right?
Right.
Yeah. I didn't quite get all the premises laid out, but I don't know that it was so much of a problem. It's kind of like yeah, sort of philosophical bases, whatever it is you're getting involved with and all that. And yeah, these are the 5 premises. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways you could formulate it, but I don't know. I think this one's kind of elegant.
All right, okay. Okay, depends on 3 and 4. Okay, depends on 1 and 2. Facts are contingent things can't explain by any contingent things. Okay, so you're basically linking aspects. But it's not quite epistemology and ontology. I think it's try and get a demand for acyclicity or something like that from you know, sort of causal, I guess, acircularity and whatever. You know. Huh.
Like Jack
Explanation
earlier,
be what's that?
Jack earlier said that basically the first premise, to dispute the first premise, which I think he said that he does, which I found odd, but we really didn't get to talk about earlier. But he said that if you dispute the first one, that you just have to say that contingent facts must be just true by they would just be brute facts insofar as you would have to argue that contingent facts don't necessarily have to have an explanation. So it would be offering a counterexample from brute fact, right? Like if but what I was like, I didn't get to ask Jack, but I was like, I don't know how I could necessarily accept a counterexample out of brute fact. I mean, I guess like insofar as it being logically coherent is actually begging the question, because this argument, if it's true, says that it would be logically incoherent for there not to be a necessary being. So he couldn't use that as a, or he'd be begging the question versus the argument. But he seemed to be saying that like it could be ontologically true that it is a brute fact, but like if the counterexample could be presented in a separate syllogism, I would be saying any contingent fact about the world must have an explanation. Well, his counter syllogism would be any contingent fact about the world doesn't necessarily entail an explanation, right? But how could he support that premise if he's only arguing from brute fact? I have no idea.
What does big D explanation here? Means the attribution of cause. And cause in what sense, right? I think, for instance, yeah, like mathematical kinds of facts, whatever it is. Yeah, so you can't trisect the angle or duplicate the cube with straight edge and compass. Yeah, those things I think would be deemed contingent. It wouldn't be a causal sort of relationship. It would be implicative, right? So the idea about explanation is maybe other places where it's problematic just beyond some kind of kinds of examples Jack raised.
Well, hopefully we can have that conversation sometime in the future. It just wasn't like very conducive earlier, but he's around a lot, and I'll see if I can't figure it out. But I don't know. I think I don't see a lot to really dispute. This is kind of like the clown for me. It doesn't seem like a lot to really dispute in this argument, but I mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean, ultimately, I think as like surrounding kind of philosophical worldviews and all that, what the kind of assessment of it relies upon.
It just seems so strange that if something was contingent on another thing, then that thing would be an explanation in and of itself, that the fact that it's contingent, because you could just look at it as like a material implication or something, right? You could just say, well, if this thing is contingent on this thing, if P is contingent on Q, okay, then if Q is contingent on P, then P implies Q, and from there we could infer if P is taken as true, we can infer Q through like modus ponens. So I think I think that altogether it's hard to argue that something that wasn't contingent or something that is contingent and is materially implicated by something possibly doesn't have a cause, because wouldn't the material implication in and of itself, through argument through modus ponens, because if it's a true implication, there would be a way to describe it in modus ponens, which would mean there would be an explanation of some sort. So I don't know, man. I wish I would have brought that objection up earlier.
Yeah. My feelings feel like it. I think it. Yeah, it's maybe more of a feeling than direct counter-argument, but it's, I think, trying to, equivocate sort of causal and implicative or logical relations between, in order to, try to play out something like the Kalam, which should be that there's some kind of, I guess, kind of composition kind of issue is like totality of all things that exist in something.
What are you talking about? Like a composition fallacy or something like that? Because I mean, I'd say that I don't necessarily. I've seen people throw that, allege that on the Kalam, but I don't think the same could be alleged for the argument from contingency. But maybe, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I'd have to hear further.
Yeah, that there are contingent things. I don't know if it's exactly analogous, but that looks like it's making the same kind of leap, even though it doesn't seem quite as directly discussing the collection.
Yeah, I think that the composition fallacy, I think there are sufficient arguments that it's not even a true composition fallacy against the Kalam, because I think composition fallacy just says it's an error to say that the sum of the parts is equal to the sum of the whole without offering justification on that merit alone. But like, what's interesting about the universe is the universe is a term we define. It's a term we use to describe the sum of all things that exist, right? Or not, or the sum of all material things that exist in continuous space-time, I guess, would be way more valid. But so what I'm saying is, we're already taking into, I don't know. Do you see what I was saying there? It seems like we're already taking into account that the universe is, by definition, the sum of all material things in a continuous spacetime. So to allege a composition fallacy is odd because the universe is defined in terms of being just that, the sum of all of these continuous parts. So it's not that there is a whole, we just call that a whole. There is no universe. It's just something we call the sum total of all its parts. So I mean, I think even the composition fallacy is an error against the Kalam, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And definitely a different perspective on these things.
You know, one thing that atheists have wrong, the Christians do have right, though. Talking about first causes, at least Christians at least acknowledge there has to be a cause of the universe, whereas like agnostics, I mean not agnostics, atheists just say, well, it just happened. I think that's an advantage that that theists have over atheists.
What kinds of things are caused? Oh, yeah, I'll get you the watch link. Hang on. Well, then I asked this, what kinds of things are caused, right? You know, when something causes something, what kind of thing is it causing?
Well, like I said,
call it an effect.
I already think these questions have already been answered by philosophers, so you know that, Nadia. But what
is an effect?
I'm sorry?
What kinds of things are effects?
It does become nonsensical when you think about it.
What kinds of things are effects?
I don't know.
Is the universe one of those kinds of things that effects are said to be, right?
I mean, effect is just something that we call an inference from the strongest inductive inference that you could ever get, that when you see A, you also see B. And then because of the strong inductive correlation of 1-to-1 in all given situations, from that we basically infer that these things are linked in a causal relationship. But that's merely an inference of what we call between the observation of A always instantating B in every known instance. So these are just words that we use to basically say that it's incredulous beyond all known observation that A doesn't cause B. And I mean,
and welcome, Rev. Yeah. Yeah, you were saying, Seamus?
I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, we can talk about what is the meaning of causality, but causality isn't necessarily means that they do have a actual relationship together. It just means that by all virtue of the strongest inductive inference that we have, we infer these things, and so it's an inference. It's not meant to be true. It's not meant to be a law. It's meant to be the strongest possible inference that can ever be made from an observable experience. And so, with that being said, Dionysus has a very, very, very strong point. And I mean, it depends. He has a strong point insofar as much as you think strong inductive arguments are good. If you value strong inductive reasoning, then he has a good argument.
Yeah. Well, I think the case there is being made is what you might call the attribution of the cause, right? Yeah, coming about to the idea that one thing caused another, right? But I think ends up being a bit of trickiness because the kinds of things that cause other things and the kinds of things that get caused are maybe not entirely well laid out, and seeing that the universe or these totalities, collections, all that end up fitting into that category of things.
I'm trying to catch up on the conversation here, but I think I know where it's at. So has an actual infinite ever been observed?
We agree that black holes have been observed.
And they're infinite? We know that?
No, they're not infinite.
The curvature of space-time, the Kretschmann scalar, is basically by definition of black holes observed to be infinite.
Well, the mathematical representation appears to be infinite in relation to some things, but I mean, that would beg the question on whether we should understand like mathematic realism or not. But I think fundamentally, I have the most basic understanding of this, but so please correct me, and I'd be totally open and humble about correction in this area. What I thought a black hole was is I thought a black hole was just a sufficiently large enough star that it had enough gravity that the escape velocity of light would be impossible given the state of the gravimetric force. So basically that is to say that if our star was significantly larger, then it would have a significant more mass, and that significant more mass would give it a significant more gravity. At a certain point, with a strong enough gravity, the escape point of light is sucked in by its own gravity. And so I thought that what we mean to say when we say a black hole is merely that we have a star, or it's not even really valuable to call it a star at that point, but we have something so large of a mass that it just can't, light can't escape it, and there's an event horizon because of that. But I never knew ultimately that that was alleged to be an actual infinite, right?
Yeah, I think what she's saying is mathematically it is, right, Nadia?
Well, anyway, the
Right.
Kretschmann scalar is basically writes a sort of idea of escape velocity may not be exactly the right term for it, but that it would end up capturing light. Yeah.
Well, when I offered, has it been observed? I'm talking ontologically speaking, not mathematically speaking.
But yeah, we've at least empirically, observed things that basically appear to be black holes. I mean,
Ontologically, not empirically, ontologically. Because empirically, you can argue that we've observed an infinite. If the mathematics lines up with black holes being infinite, okay, so that's fine. But I'm talking ontologically here in reality. Have we observed that?
Yeah, I guess if you want actual evidence in terms of curvatures, actually any corner will do. Every corner is an
Expand on
actual
that.
curvature, right?
Expand on that.
Corners are points of infinite curvature.
But angles or points of infinite curvature? Is that what you said?
Corners. Corners are.
Corners. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, layman here, Nadia. You're speaking over my head, but I'm trying to understand.
I mean, one of the ways you can think of curvature is, it's kind of like if you had like a sphere that would, just touch the inside. That was kind of the biggest possible sphere that could, be kind of like touching it, making contact that way. Kind of like you could have like, let's say bowls that are like, pieces of spheres, right? The smaller bowl, touch the bigger bowl, on the inside where it cups the curve and so on. But the bigger bowl can't touch the smaller one on the inside, right?
Okay.
It's just like cutting off pieces of spheres, right?
Okay. I still don't see how that.
Hang on.
I still don't see how that implies an infinite, though. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm about to get there. Yeah. So basically, it's like 1 over the radius of the sphere that the bowl is cut from. That's is as big as possible that can touch it on the inside. That's the curvature in some certain ways.
I think I follow you. I think.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
You got a corner. Well, you got a corner, right? You basically got to shrink it, the bowl, sphere, or whatever it is, down to 0. So you got to touch it on the inside corner, right? So.
Okay, but regardless of this, I love this. It's good stuff. But regardless of all that, Nadia, you do acknowledge that mainstream science that says that the universe does have a finite age, right? It is an infinite. Mainstream science says that.
Well, that's kind of a little bit of a leap. The background radiation is kind of the earliest point that we have any a telescope observational evidence for.
Well, but I
think it really gives a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I thought instead of the microwave background radiation, I always thought that the BGV theory, I always thought they said that, well, Matt Bell always has this thing where he says that any expanding space-time would have to be finite, given that it's expanding. Would that be an accurate reflection of what that says, or no?
Yeah, I think it does some way rely on it being expanding. I don't see why it needs to rely on it. I mean, just, entropy kind of being a one-way street is kind of already enough to, give you some kind of, limit to how far you can really wind back, and once you have it discretized, you end up in stasis at various points, and so you get definite limit on time.
Yeah, all I'm saying, Nadia, is you do acknowledge that you're in the minority opinion in terms of mainstream cosmology, that believing that that the universe is an infinite, right? You do acknowledge that.
Mm. Well, inference, a kind of chain of inference that would go on is some of the ideas about entropy would have to be abandoned, and basically on the grounds that it's not really logically possible to have that kind of beginning of time. So I don't know. I'm not really that way to it. I think it's some kind of possibility should be considered there, but still.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'm not wedded to my belief either. You would need somebody that's hardcore for the Kalam to be in here to want to really argue it, but it does make more sense to me that there is some sort of singularity or start to this than the contrary. Just the way I see it,
Oh, we were doing Leibniz's. Well, I don't know if it's really a Leibnizian cosmological argument as much as the argument from could you go back to the Quinquaviae? I think it's one of them. Go ahead.
I was just saying, what I think is funny though. I was just looking at the whole pictures of the moon. What's funny is that atheists constantly think that the new evidence has come from scientists proves that there is no God, which I believe is actually doesn't prove that there is no God. Is actually giving more evidence that there is, or the possibility there could be a God. I don't understand. Maybe they're speaking of the Christian God at most. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it is one. It's his third of the Quinquaviae. Yeah. Okay.
I'm really interested in the new telescope that's getting ready to go up, and I think in 2018, was it the Webb? Is that the new telescope that's going up?
Oh, hang on. I would, yeah, I guess it does draw a parallel with the Leibnizian cosmological argument, yeah. So.
Where's Matt Bell when you need him?
Well, one of the main principles of the Leibnizian cosmological argument is that it relies on, it kind of is very close to the Kalam in that it basically takes for a premise, or not for a premise, but for an antithesis that from nothing, nothing comes. So, and like I said, that's I think that would be could be both evidenced in both a priori, that is like a logical reason alone argumentation, but then it could also be evidenced like from evidence and empirical too. So I think
right, right,
yeah,
right, brother. And the only way they get around that is trying to redefine nothing. Go ahead. Sorry for stepping on you, Shane.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think Lawrence Counts represents much. I think it is, comes from philosophy more than anything like science. And I don't think the philosophers, bungle things that badly. So. I put a link up to the argument from contingency, which is the third of Aquinas' Quinquaviae. So.
Desert, I just saw your new name, man. Desert the Deist. That's cool.
Yeah, you like that? Thanks, man.
Yeah, man, that's cool.
I noticed John changed his to John the Atheist. I don't know if he did that because of me. He's copying me. No, I'm just kidding.
I see. Leibniz, maybe the origin of the PSR. The principle of sufficient reason was the question. It was pretty heavily disputed on that. Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying the question is, Nadia, if you were going to have a trial, a court trial, whether there was God or no God, I think it would lead to a mistrial.
Words of wisdom, buddy. Yeah. Dio, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, I think it'd be rather clear that there are no such things as gods. Veckel just left the other one, so
Nadia.
I don't think it'll be that.
Oh, Nadia.
Probably won't be getting that crazy at this point.
Yeah, they're talking about race and stuff, and there was getting loud.
Yeah, race is one of those ones that people get very boisterous about.
Yeah, before I jumped in here, I was listening, and Veckel was, man, he was worked up.
I'll come back to you. yeah, I tried to point to kind of source the ideas like, like comparison. Probably one of the first people to publicly make it was it was from a black gay civil rights leader. Right? So.
Well, Nadia, what do you think about? Okay, Nadia, what do you think about the fact that like this community college that I have that's around me, for example, they had a lawsuit against them because they were not hiring white people. Do you think that black people have the right to discriminate, positively discriminate because they've been?
I think we should probably get back to Leibniz and
all right, fine.
PSR argument for contingency and all that. I mean,
I'm sorry. I was just trying to go with the flow.
Well, what are the critiques to the PSR? Is it basically just saying that it's possible for contingent facts to not have a reason or cause? But that's kind of, I mean, is that what they're saying? Because I don't know.
Well,
we might be able to change the discussion given present company. Floyd needs broadcasts.
Yeah, there we go.
If you want to change discussion, last night I presented, I guess it was an hour and 45-minute hangout on, I did a fairly thorough job on evidences for the historical Jesus. I did a decent job on historical evidences for the empty tomb. And then so it took about an hour and 45 minutes. So I was hoping some people would join, but it was kind of late, and it was.
But Seamus, you're basing when you talk about the evidence, for example, I think you have the criteria of shame. I think that was one of the things that you were using as part of your evidence. I'm just wondering, how do you feel about the way that Muslims feel towards Muhammad? I mean, obviously we have great people that people could deceive themselves in believing that they were brought forth because of God. So I'm just wondering how you reconcile those beliefs.
How I reconcile what?
How do you reconcile, for example, that there are other people that have been brought forth in history that have claimed to be brought forth because of God? Like, how can you be so sure that Jesus Christ was one of them?
Oh, you mean, well, because the claims of Jesus Christ are evaluated on their own merits. That in and of itself, the fact that other people have made claims, wouldn't be speak to the truth or falsity of my claim, right? So, like, the only way I could say it in a very vague sense is, like, if I have a proposition, and if that's either true or false, right? You could have as many as you want of similar propositions with just different content, and if all of those contents are false, it doesn't speak, or true, it doesn't speak to unless they have mutually contradictory propositions, don't speak to the falsity of my proposition. So in short, all I'm saying is, like, those claims don't matter. It doesn't mean that, couldn't it still be true that Christianity is true and all those claims are false? So that in and of itself is not even an evidential argument.
You're saying basically it's a gambler's fallacy then, right?
No, what I'm saying is that what you just provided is not necessarily an argument, just citing that there are other claims, right? There are other claims, but it doesn't speak to the truth or falsity of my claim, right?
Yeah, I just think that if there's a God, I just don't think he'd make himself so. I mean, first of all, I don't believe that he would determine that in order to be saved that you need faith. I think if he thought that for him to be worshipped or him to be followed was so important, his communication would be very clear. And I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I can't speak for God.
What do you think? A deist God is more likely than a personal creator?
I'm kind of believing that the unmoved mover is more obvious.
More
that
logical.
Doesn't necessarily have to be personal.
Right.
You could hold, like, anyone could hold, atheist could hold to an prime mover. I mean, that's not necessarily that. I don't think that implies God. Nadia, Floyd, what do you think? Do you think such the thing would, like, logically entail that you're being contradictory with atheism?
Yeah, I mean, all it says is there's just some initial something, It doesn't tell you what that initial something was.
Right.
Yeah, but the question is, the reason why we give more credence to the fact that it is God versus not being God, would because it's hard to believe that whatever wasn't an unmoved mover seemed to have some type of initiation, and because of that, I would reconcile that as being, I would reckon that would be God.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, because if there's something and then something is nothing, or nothing is something, then there has to be a will to make the nothing something. Sorry, Shameless, go ahead.
Yeah, but the atheist would just argue that it's kind of an ad hoc hypothesis, but it's to say, what if I posited that this entity just had the necessary and sufficient conditions to do such a thing,
Right.
No, I
But,
mean,
that's
absolutely,
that's a
it's
just so
absolutely ad
case,
hoc.
just saying, well, let's just suppose that it's just so.
It's absolutely ad hoc. I wouldn't disagree with you there, Seamus. But like Schopenhauer has already solved these problems with the will. But he was an atheist and he had a metaphysical system. But
I think the beauty of saying that such an explanation is ad hoc is when you place it up against, like William Lane Craig's argumentation for it being personal, even though it might be lackluster, if you can prove that the other hypothesis is merely ad hoc, in a just so story, you could, on Occam's razor, suppose that even evidentially that it would be improper to start from that assumption, given the fact that there's another assumption with equal explanatory power with less unsupported assumptions. So I think
I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with having ad hoc hypothesis, just like we have with models of the universe or the soul system. For example, the Tomelic, whatever his name is, the ad hoc models that have been put forth for the soul system in prior history. I have no problem with that. We can have like multiple ad hoc hypotheses, and then whoever you are, you can just pick the one that is more favorable to you. That's like the end result for me. So.
Yeah, an ad hoc hypothesis is not deemed to be false. Like, that's not. It doesn't mean it's false. It just means that via its explanatory power, there would be, given its ad hoc nature, there would be, well, there wouldn't have to be, but in some cases there would be another explanation that's just as parsimonious but doesn't have that unsupported assumption. So, and then if that was true, then it would say that from there would be the most rational, like heuristic, like starting point when it comes to these theories. So what it would just say is, until the person offering the ad hoc hypothesis can offer some measure of evidence or predictive capability to show his hypothesis is not ad hoc, until that point is gained, your explanation is more plausible. Doesn't mean either of them is true.
Yeah, the way I like a very layman's analogy here. Think about if you want light in a room, right? You have to walk up to the light switch and flip it. Now, that takes an action. And it's the same thing. I think of let there be light, right? There wasn't light before, and there had to be some sort of action. Now, is it a naturalistic cause without some sort of thing outside of what we perceive as reality? I would say that that's illogical. I think that there had to be something that transcends reality before there was quote unquote reality. I think you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I do. I mean, these are all interesting questions, but maybe we could try to segue a little bit if we could. I wanted to ask Floyd if he knew. Someone told me, because I haven't been following, but somebody told me the Ehrman price debate is coming up pretty soon, and I don't know exactly when, but I'm like really pumped up to at least know if they finalized the topic. Like, I hope it's the one that everybody wants, like, did Jesus of Nazareth exist, or whatever you would say.
Yeah, as far as I know, that is the topic. It's supposed to be in October. So still ways off.
I really hope Bart Ehrman brings his A game and doesn't. I hope he doesn't appeal to authority once. I hope he doesn't even say any of that crap, because he often becomes incredulous sometimes, even in formal debates. And I think that I would just like to see him just present a really good case from the evidence, not do any of that stuff, and see where the cards go, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't do good appealing to other scholars, because Price pretty much has read every single scholar you can think of. So, I mean, he just become, yeah, well, this guy says this, well, this guy says that. Yeah, I don't think either are going to go there. But I think Ehrman better make sure he's prepared, because
yeah, you know, Robert Price has been preparing for this for like what, 4 years now. So, you know, he's been wanting this debate for a long time, and you know, he's really, this is, you know, the one thing where he's really, really super dedicated. Bart Ehrman's got, you know, he's not super dedicated to the historical Jesus topic, like, at all. He just got pulled into it. So it's kind of funny that you're right, he better have his shit together, because, you know, this is what Robert and Price, even though he's a minority position, this is his bread and butter, you know. And Ehrman's interests are very diversified, and he's really not big into historical Jesus. And so he could come in with some really just junk.
Price already wrote a full book about Ehrman.
What was that called?
I have it on my Kindle. Let me see what it is. It's something like Bart Ehrman, and let me see if I can find it.
I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I think Floyd should be like one of the professional debaters on this topic. From what I've seen from him, amazing stuff. He knows he'd be very formidable.
Price and Carrier can do a much better job than I ever could.
No, I was about to sing your praises, because I think that you know, Floyd's got a job, he's got a 9 to 5, and he's got, you know, family commitments and stuff, you know. And if you know, he could, you know, not saying he couldn't, but if he thought it was, you know, worthwhile in any way, and these things usually don't pay off in any respect, to do that, I think, and he put his, you know, went to the school, of course he could get all the way through PhD in New Testament studies and all that stuff. I have no doubt about it. He's capable, and he could hold his own amongst those people for sure. So yeah, given this current state of events right now, Robert and Price is more capable than Floyd, or like me, or whoever. But that's not to say that Floyd, given the need or want, couldn't do that.
Yeah, I agree. Not that it's my place to rate anyone, especially somebody as wondrous as Floyd. But I will express my opinion. Our Floyd is uniquely excellent in his reasoning styles and his excellence of reasoning. You know, I guess nobody's maybe perfect in every way, but our Floyd has got it going on. And yeah, just from my perspective.
Brilliant guy. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, Rev, if you will, I'm getting ready to head down the road here to either beg or borrow a substantial wad of cash to pay on my happy family home, a critical payment. If you would say a prayer under your breath for me, I'd be grateful, sir.
You don't even need to ask, my friend. Absolutely. It is done, my brother.
Good to see all of you, especially you, Nadia. Good to see you.
You too, Tommy.
Hey, Tommy.
I can't find it now. It's out on Amazon.
What's the name of it? You know?
I like Bart Ehrman and the quest for the historical Jesus, something like that. I would think it would be on our Amazon.
I'm looking it up too for you. Yeah, I have one on Amazon. I put the link on the side for you.
Oh, there it is.
See it?
Oh, wait, it's under Carrier?
No, I have one under Bart Ehrman.
It's Bart Ehrman and the Quest for the Historical Jesus of Nazareth. That's what it's called.
Yeah. There's a Kindle edition and paperback.
I thought I had it on my Kindle. It's by Richard Carrier.
Yeah, sure. I have that actually.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm sure it's not.
I haven't read
No,
it.
no, no. It says
I thought it was totally Robert Price.
Arthur is Murdoch. Arthur.
A lot of times these guys
Doherty,
write
Fitzgerald.
whole chapters, Floyd. Like Robert
No.
A. Price could have wrote multiple chapters in that book.
Yeah, he's on there. He's on there as an editor.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
I'll put it on the side there, Floyd, since like the expanded version of what it says.
I think it might be. I thought Price wrote the whole thing. Must be thinking of something else.
I mean, you could be wrong. Is that what you're saying?
Based on the presuppositions of my worldview, I can never be wrong about anything.
Yeah, if you could be wrong about that, and you could be wrong about anything. How do you know that?
Based on
You don't, therefore God.
Don't start with the whole JJ stuff, man.
No, they moved into racism stuff. It's not really like I'm not racist at all, and it's not a conversation I want to get into. They were making ridiculous points. Then I got threatened at one point.
Who were the racists? I'm just curious.
They weren't racist. They were saying that people were making racist comments. They never really pointed out any that. They pointed out arguments that were illogical arguments, like comparing. I said it's comparing apples to oranges. It was like comparing the melanin in a black person's skin to homosexual acts, like people having gay sex.
Well, that's very common. Like, as soon as you don't like somebody, it's so easy.
That's a ridiculous argument or a statement to make. Like they're comparing two different things, like completely two separate things. You might, I know, but you might as well be comparing melanin in someone's skin to a telephone at that point, right? Like,
I know.
There is no comparison between homosexual acts and the melanin in someone's skin as being racist or being discriminatory, right? But like, I don't want to get into that side of the argument, but that's what was being brought up. Wasn't ever really clarified, and the room went nuts. Like,
yeah, well, the room goes really nuts when I claim that de facto segregation is a good thing, but that's another story.
Sure. No, I see you get jumped on a lot, and I know your points are a lot more nuanced than the way they come out. I do that quite a bit too. I'll shorten something down and say it simply, and it'll sound really harsh, but once I nuance it out, it's not as harsh as it sounded, and it has some rationality behind it.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I agree with some of the stuff you say, but I don't
No,
think you don't know you do.
I can hold my own. I'm just saying, like, nobody would argue if you had a black person come on these channels and you had a black person who's been oppressed and says, look, dude, I just want to hang out with black people. I want to make my own black schools, my own black universities, and I just want to be separated from you guys. And I don't want to legally separate it, but I just would like to have, be around my own people. Right. Nobody would say anything about that. No one would protest that. But if you have a white person doing the same thing, that would protest it again.
No, you'd have fringe people that would do it, but I don't think I think you'd end up with the same as if whites did it.
Actually, when
it starts becoming like publicly funded.
Actually, what Dionysus is talking about here has been done by Incorporated, and people have said, "Hey, listen, dude, this type of segregation you're talking about probably wouldn't be best for African American companies, because he argues for the for just operating within the quote-unquote black economy."
Right.
And, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, short term, right? Like that would be good for those groups, and maybe in the long term it would be good for a single group or something, right? You would end up with like some supreme race again. But like in a long term, I don't think that would be this great thing. But like I said, when it becomes publicly funded, right? Like you start having colleges that are publicly funded, and they're whites only, or blacks only, or right? When they're publicly funded that way, then you're stepping into shit.
But hold on a second, Xbox, hold on a second. Like we have in Louisiana, we have like a university that's dedicated mostly towards blacks. But white people do go there, especially for like law school, because it's cheaper. And you have LSU, which is predominantly white or Asian, and
right.
You do have black people that are allowed to go there. They legally are allowed to go there. We like them there. It's fine.
Right,
But
public, right?
But what happens is you have the black university and you have the white university predominantly say, look, we want to preserve each other's culture. Is that okay? And everybody agreed that it's okay.
Right.
So what's the problem with that? Like, we both want to.
There is no problem with that if it's private, right?
No, they're still allowed.
If it's publicly funded, then there's an issue.
They're allowed to go to each other's universities. There's nothing legally stopping them from going to each other's universities, but it's de facto in the sense that that's understood by the public that this is predominantly white and this is predominantly black.
Yeah, this is a cultural thing, right? A cultural.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that. I think I like the fact that black universities have their own university and white people have their own university. I think it's perfectly okay.
I don't know that I necessarily like it. I don't know too much about it, but I don't have an issue with it. Like I said, I have an issue when it becomes publicly funded of segregation.
So you have an issue when it becomes publicly funded. How do you like this? If you have a predominantly white neighborhood and a predominantly it's a white school, and you're hauling in people from let's say like the ghettos, predominantly black, and you're hauling them in, and because you're trying to use integration, and basically you have a large number of black kids coming in, and then they're bullying the white kids, and then therefore the white kids are forced to a decision to send their kids to private schools, and now they're paying for public schools as well as private schools. Like, and also, by the way, these schools are now like 80-90% black. Like, how do you feel about that being publicly funded?
Which part how do I feel about it being publicly funded?
In the fact that
which part are you asking? Like, you're saying that they're hauling in, they're like forcing the integration and things like that.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is that even when you try to force desegregation, you end up with a worse case of segregation than what was happening before.
Yeah, I don't think you should force either side of it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Integration or segregation. I mean, if it's predominantly white neighborhood, then that school is going to be predominantly white, right? Like, but I don't think they should, unless it's a private school, segregate.
You agree with me then? That's the definition of de facto segregation.
Okay, could we hit the pause button on the discussion for 1 second? I think Floyd wanted to say something.
Please.
I was just going to ask Seamus if he got the book "The Case for the Resurrection of Jesus" by Gary Habermas and Mike Liacona. It was the Kindle edition was free for a time being. I was able to get it. I didn't read it yet, but I just checked Amazon. It's $14 again, but it was free for like a weekend.
Here,
no, I don't think I have that actually. I don't have but like one book from Gary Habermas, just one I think, or maybe two.
Yeah, what was the title
It's
again?
not that one.
The Case for the Resurrection of Jesus. It was free on Amazon. The free download from Kindle. For like a weekend, like a month ago. I bet it'll be free again pretty soon.
Right.
Yeah, Nadia could probably get it for you too.
Who is it by? You said Gary.
Gary Habermas and Mike Liacona. Those are like the very popular apologists.
Yep, I see it here.
Yeah, the Case for the Resurrection of Jesus by Gary Habermas and Michael Liacona. Yeah, it's $14 again. It was free at one point.
Yeah, I see it there for 14.
Yeah, no, I don't have that. The only book I have for Gary Habermas is just one. It's called The Historical Jesus, and it's like 20 years old.
Whatchamacallit? What did we interrupt you? Like, because I didn't really want to go into race on it. That's why I left the other room. Like, did I interrupt you talking about some of this historicity of Jesus? And
No, not really.
I know most of the arguments you make for it. I don't know them good enough that I can make them.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I'm sorry.
So we had something to talk about.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, I just sort of pushed the pause button because I thought Floyd wanted to say something. You guys can continue the convo if you want to, that you and Dio were having.
No, yeah, either way. Fine with me. I don't mind talking about the segregation or the publicly funded stuff and all that, or Jesus, or you talk about whatever. I don't want to talk about race because that's why I left the other room. I'll be quiet if we.
Yeah, man. Before I jumped in here, I heard it was getting heated, bro. That
was, and I'm repeating it probably to make myself feel better, but that guy Psycho was like filibustering, right? So I muted him. Friendly mute, right? Like this wasn't out of being mad or anything. It just he wouldn't shut up and let everybody else talk. And as soon as someone else would talk, he would start talking and muted him, and then I stayed quiet. He muted me because I muted him, right? And I didn't respond to it. I didn't take the bait and try to argue with him about it or anything, right?
Right.
He
Yeah,
started threatening me, and then like,
yeah,
and I kick your shit. So I removed him.
yeah, he's very passionate about these issues, man. Psycho, you know, and it's more so just his passion. It's not about UX. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't have anything against him. I didn't have anything against him when I muted him. I was actually trying to get it wasn't against him in particular. I was trying to get the room under control. Like you said, you heard it. Everybody started going nuts in there.
Yeah, you were trying to mod. It's all good, man. Yeah. And modding.
Feel better.
I'm telling you, bro. Modding in Nadia's room, toughest thing you can do. It's hard.
Yeah, and we had, for the most part, up until then, I don't know if Veckel had maybe a little bit of a lag or something, but he kept stomping on people whenever they would talk. He would either talk over them right at the end or the beginning, and I know that happens. Same thing. I didn't have anything against him, but up until then, we had really good back and forths and letting people finish. And we had a small spurt with Seamus, and he got really frustrated. As I was apologizing, I guess I'd forced him out of the room. But I hope you heard the apology. If not, I apologize.
No, it wasn't you. It was just there was too much going on. I just knew that it wasn't you. It was just everybody. I just knew it wasn't going to be one of those days.
Speak of the devil. What's up, Psycho?
Sorry. I've
So
been
why'd
having
you boot
connection
me,
issues.
son?
I think
What's going on?
I think Psycho's on my side, right,
You
Psycho?
about to boot me again?
I'm not gonna boot you. I had nothing against you, man. I was actually trying to get the room under control. It wasn't under you particular, and then I.
Okay, wait, hold up. So you was trying to get the room under control, then why didn't you, if you was trying to get the room under control, see, right now, you're not letting me talk.
I didn't say anything. What do you?
Psycho, I think you have the live stream open. See, try to close the live stream.
Okay, all right, that's what's going on. Okay, yeah, like I was saying, at the end of the day, if you was trying to get control of the room, why wasn't you muting the people that was talking over me when I was trying to get my words out? I had just came in the room. Y'all was talking about that thing for almost an hour.
Yeah.
And I had just came in the room, and then as soon as I started talking, everybody started blah, 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 cutting me off, not letting me talk and everything else. That's when I get pissed off, because whenever I come in these rooms, I sit up here, I let everybody get their thoughts out. People got something to say, I'll be quiet, I'll fall back, whatever, get your thoughts out. I'll wait till everything's quiet, and then I present my motherfucking argument. Or if I got something to say, I'll chime in, whatever the case may be, laugh, joke, whatever. But when I come up in here and I got something I actually want to get off my chest, and everybody disrespects me and don't show me the same respect I show them, that's when I get upset. That's when I get pissed off. And that's when I start turning into another motherfucker up on here. You know what I'm saying?
I give you respect, man, but the no drama Obama is a lot more suiting, that's all.
No, but I feel his sentiment, because that's exactly how I feel a lot of the time. Like, he said everything I want to say sometimes, like, for real. Like,
Yeah, no,
I
if
want to
you
get
go
that on
back to
recording
that.
and play that sometimes when you guys are doing your shit.
No, if you go back to it,
I
that's
get
what it was.
booted.
It was like this. Like it ended up, everybody was talking over everybody, and I think.
So
Jay
why was I the one who got booted?
And he was doing just
Nobody else got booted, just me. Why?
It could have been an
You're
accident.
doing exactly what you're doing right now, and that's I went to mute you, and as soon as I did, everybody got quiet, and JJ started making his point, and then you muted me for some reason. I wasn't even
I
talking.
muted you because you muted me. I don't be muting people.
that's
I don't even
ridiculous.
do that.
That's
I
ridiculous.
don't even do that. I know when to be quiet and let people talk. But when I'm trying to get my point out, be quiet, let me get my point out, and then I will fall back and let you respond. That's how things usually work. I don't need people to sit up here and try to censor me. I fight censorship.
It wasn't that. It was the filibustering that was going on, not just by you, but
What filibustering? I wasn't cracking no jokes. I wasn't sitting up here mocking people the way y'all was trying to mock me.
I didn't say that. It was the long talking.
Why did you? What JJ was talking all over me, going la 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 la. I can't hear you. La 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 la. I can't hear you. And you didn't mute him. You didn't boot him. None of that shit. You
I
booted
wasn't
me.
there. I wasn't there. I didn't hear that.
What do you mean you wasn't there? You was right there. What do you mean? Now you saying you wasn't there? What are you talking about? You wasn't paying attention?
La or whatever. I didn't hear that at all.
You didn't hear? Go back and rewind. Go back and rewind. You ain't hear that? Everybody on the side chat heard it, but you was in the room and you didn't hear it?
I wasn't in the room. That's what I'm saying. I wasn't sitting here at my computer.
You wasn't sitting by your computer, so you just walked in the middle of a conversation, had no clue what the fuck was going on, and just decided, oh, I'm going to build this motherfucker right here.
No, I was in there. One of my daughters got home from school. I went.
Now you saying you was in there. Make up your mind, son.
Okay.
Psycho, could have just been an accident. When you hear a lot of commotion, sometimes like I do that as well. I will just mute the first person that's making the most racket.
Yes, I'm saying I don't have anything against you.
How come Godless never gets muted? Can I ask that question? How come I asked that in the side chat? How come Godless never gets muted? Godless comes up on here, she yells and screams for hours at motherfuckers, doing all types of craziness. People love it. People love it. They eat it up. They love it. Everything else. I don't even have no problem with her doing it, so I'm not even trying to kill her about it. My question is, how come nobody boots her? How come nobody mutes her? How come I'm getting muted and booted?
Well, I'll tell you, there's an unspoken rule at the internet that there's few enough women on the internet as it is, so
so she gets a pass. Oh, okay, yes, I get it. I see what's going on. A bunch of white knight stuff going on around here. That's what's going on. Yeah. Y'all ain't calling it down the middle, right? That's what's going on. Well, how come JJ didn't get muted or booted when he was talking over me? He's not a girl.
That's true. That's a good question. That's a legitimate question. The man's got a legitimate question. Because I think JJ definitely pushes buttons and is a dickwad a lot of times. He can have a coherent conversation, he just doesn't choose to do so, at least not lately.
And he hasn't been here long enough to even act the way that he does. That's what I don't like, actually. He's only been here for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, he seems like he's an old-time friend or something, like the way he talks to people.
I think a lot of people would benefit from understanding personalities. And Psycho is a very passionate guy. And when he comes into a room, he wants to get something out. He wants it fucking out there, right? So especially if you're a mod, you have to weigh your options in these hangouts. If you think that somebody is stepping over somebody, don't just automatically kick them. Hide them for a bit and let them chill out, right? I think that's the way to handle it. Just booting. Absolutely. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you can go back and you know me. Like, you've seen me in mod rooms. I rarely ever mute someone, and the only reason I booted Psycho was because he was sitting there threatening me with it, and I didn't know him, and it was like
I didn't sit up there, and I didn't even you muted me first. I didn't even say nothing to you. I was talking to the entire room about the topic at hand. I know, and then next thing I know, I'm muted.
Rev just told
and then that's when I muted you back, and then you muted me again, and I told you don't mute me no more. Or else I'm gonna boot you. That's what I said because I'm not playing this little stupid muting game.
Yeah,
I don't do that shit.
I did, but it didn't matter. Like, I got muted twice. The point was I don't have nothing against you, and Rev told me that you're a passionate guy. It was our first interaction. I mean,
right? Yeah, exactly. I think if you've seen Psycho in the rooms, you would understand him. I don't know if you ever saw him in the room before, X, but if he has a point, he wants to get it out, and give him the time. If you feel that he's stepping on people, maybe hide him, but kicking, that's. You understand this. You mod your own room constantly, so, yeah.
Hold up. Phone call. I'll be right back.
Hey, Ocean, what's up?
Damn it. I'm sorry. I don't know how much you cut what I said. I apologize. I'm gonna have to reset my router.
Go ahead, Shamos.
I was just saying, I think we're kind of at a break now. Maybe someone can propose a topic change or something, or whatever. I mean, we got some, I mean, we don't have to necessarily talk about the whole historical Jesus or anything like that. I mean, there's a lot of other things that, interesting things we could talk about given the present company involved. I think there's a lot of cool topics we could talk about. Anybody have any ideas?
Well, judging by what Ludic brought up in the side chat, why are quote-unquote passionate women not treated the same way that quote-unquote passionate men are treated around here.
I say it was because of pussy power, and that's the reason why I'm not a feminist, is because we have to. Go ahead.
Oh, I agree with you, but I don't think it's really an interesting thing to talk about. I think it's just very simply pussy power in the sense that, well, there's not a whole lot of women on the internet in forms of like these chat rooms type things, or in like gaming communities. It seems like, so people in those online interactions, I think they just try to be a little more forgiving to the women because they're like a welcome minority, you know, as opposed to an unwelcome minority. So I think that just kind of goes without saying. I don't know if it's an interesting thing to talk about, but like I definitely am more apt to give. Well, I guess I'm not, but I'm an exception. I'm a jerk. But I think most people are more apt to give women the benefit of the doubt and not pounce on them. But sometimes I feel the need.
Hey, what's going on, Psycho? I heard you going off, man. I wanted to come talk to you and Veckel because I kind of heard what Veckel was doing, and he has a bit of a persecution complex, so I'm really careful about trying to agree with some of his notions. We'll call them that. You there, Psycho?
He had a phone call. He'll be back in a minute or two, I think.
He was saying something, and once he left the room, I didn't catch any of it. Someone just told me to come in here.
I like Paco. I think he's like the most civilized minority, one of the most civilized minority that comes on here. He looks at things a lot more in depth than I think a lot of people do.
Calling him a civilized minority, I guess, is nice.
Yeah, that was weird. I was like, huh?
Well, he's not a barbarian.
No, but I'm just saying, like he's not a simple person though. He actually like.
Oh my God, dude.
Just stop.
Dude, you don't even mean to do this. That's the bad thing right now.
This is why we have our own groups. This is literally why Black Atheist groups exist.
No, hold on a second. Hold on a second. He was talking about, like, for example, the slavery issue, which is a lot more nuanced than you guys get credit for.
No, but I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying even those simple statements you just said had a lot of buried racist stuff behind it. Like, and even I could see that. Like, that was, like, really strange.
Oh, man.
It shouldn't have came out that way. If it did, I'm sorry. What
was so funny is the fact that you were completely doing it and you weren't even aware of it. That's not, I mean, it's funny, but it's not.
That's why I was laughing at it, because I know he wasn't being malicious, but it's just the fact that it's so deep rooted. But wait, Dionysus, you're from Louisiana, aren't you?
Wait, hold on. That's deep rooted right there, though.
Well, no, I'm from Louisiana too. That's why I had to remember that. I understand.
Because you're white, Dionysus.
No, that's because he's down. No, it's really rooted in Louisiana. It's bad.
Oh yeah,
really bad.
What's up, Drag?
Let me defend my own state for a second. New Orleans and Baton Rouge is not the way that most Louisiana is. All right, we are a lot more liberal than the rest of the state is. Okay.
No, and what's crazy is, like, you know, I'm in the South too. I'm on the edge of it, right? But and it's a different world from where I am, and it's racist as shit here. It's a different world from here to Alabama to Louisiana. Like
Louisiana, Alabama, that whole sector has a lot of racism involved in it historically and still to this day.
Oh yeah.
What's up, Drag? I heard what you said after I got booted. I agree with a lot of stuff you were saying.
Well, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and I understand why you're upset. But I think what we have to be careful is trying to explain some of the issues that we're dealing with when we talk to our white counterparts or counterparts from other demographics, is that they can't interpret our pain living as
and
a
that's
person
what I was trying to get out.
But you can't.
And that's what I was trying to get out right before I got booted.
You can't do that. That's the thing. You cannot try to simply go and seek direct empathy from folks who really cannot relate. It's not that many of them don't want to. It's that they can't. I can't, for the life of me, understand what it's like to be catcalled on a regular basis. I can't understand how women feel when they're walking down the hall with a bunch of guys wanting to get a piece of them, and then some of them even saying that I would love a piece of that. So for me to simply go in and try and reach a woman on that level would be less than preferable, because there is nothing that I can directly relate to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's where me and Veckel were. Like right at the beginning, it was about this argument doesn't even matter, right? He was saying that someone on his channel made this comparison between gay acts and the color of someone's skin, or the melanin in someone's skin. They compared those two, and he found that offensive. I don't, for the life of me, figure out. I can't figure out how he found that offensive, because it's a ridiculous argument, right? Like, so like I don't have that connection, and that's what we were trying to reach, I guess. And you clarified it real good, Dre.
Well, yeah, that's for
not the connection, but that's what the piece we were missing. Sure.
Well, yeah, and that's
right before I got booted and kicked. What I was trying to get out before I was doing getting all this muted stuff and everything else was, I have a personal problem with white people or anybody of any other race. I'm not even going to just single out white people, any race, telling me as a black man how I should feel about certain situations that involve, you know, black persecution in this country. It bugs the shit out of me. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not going to sit up here and tell gay people how they should feel about whatever persecutions they're going through and everything else. I actually don't have no issues with them trying to get married, doing all this other stuff. They want to be gay. I don't care. Like, they want to get married, I don't care. They're not taking nobody off the table for me or nothing. They're not taking anybody I want, so what I care. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I don't got no religious beliefs holding me to a certain position where I feel like I need to knock this or anything. So at the end of the day, I don't get in the middle of all that. That's not my fight. You know what I'm saying? But when I hear them say certain things, and then this bugged me too, because I heard people trying to insinuate that Veckel was making shit up when he was saying, oh, well, white, I hear all the time, white, mainly liberals, and he was right, it's mainly liberals, the PC crowd, we all know the PC crowd, the social justice warriors, it's mainly them who get up there and make these comparisons. They actually do it more than the gay people, to be honest with you. And at the end of the day, whenever I hear this, it bugs the shit out of me. But they was trying to insinuate that Veckel was making this shit up, and I'm telling them, like, I hang around these atheist circles.
Yeah, I tried to stop you. I heard that too.
I hear these comparisons on a regular basis, and if I didn't, I wouldn't make light of it. I would get up on here and tell Veckel he was tripping if I thought he was tripping, but he wasn't. They actually do make these comparisons. These comparisons is real, and.
I tried to back them up, or I tried to get them to stop doing it, like when they, because I didn't agree with that either. It was even if he was completely lying, it didn't even matter to argue about it with him. Like, it was stupid even calling him a liar.
And I understand why people would go to that, because routinely Veckel does blow things out of proportion. So just based on just based on past experiences with Veckel, that's where I think that a lot of them were drawing that from. And Veckel did have somewhat of a point on this one occasion. So we as skeptics always need to practice some skepticism. That's always something good for us to remember. But
that's a good point, because I didn't even think about like that part of it at all until you just said that. I didn't even think about, because I was backing him up. I was like, don't call him a liar. Like, it didn't matter. Like, but what you just said, you killed my argument.
No, we do. We have to definitely practice skepticism, and especially, and unfortunately, Veckel does tend to do this a little bit too often, where he does blow things out of proportion or kind of distort what's actually happening, selective memory, so on and so forth. So on this one occasion, Veckel did have a very good point. There is a lot of conflation that goes on with suffering, and you really can't put suffering on a scale and say that this suffering is greater than this suffering. There's really no way, because it's subjective. You know, I can't, tell someone what my life experiences are and expect them to feel about it the same way that I do. And I stopped getting upset. I mean, Psycho, there's really little I can tell you other than I've had to separate my emotions from it, because you are just going to end up getting hurt in the end. I thought Live Life 8072 was better than he was, and he turned out to be another Atheism is Unstoppable clone. Autopsy 87 is another one. And they sat in my face and told me, oh, no, I think this, that, and the other, and, you're cool, and this. And then they turn around and say, well, I can turn a buck by being a racist asshole. And they did. So I can't take that personally, because they're going to do what's convenient for them, and they are their own people. And so I said, you know what? It was nice dealing with you, but I'm not going to be a part of this. And
Sure.
The self-defense should end up breaking apart because of that ideological difference. It is easy for them to make certain assertions. It's easy for them to say, well, crime is only the bad things that black people do. If you actually talk to people, and when they say crime, they'll define it as what people of color are doing bad in society. It's never the 30-something categories that actually exist on the laws for the United States of America.
That
and
is
it's
some
funny.
fucked up shit, Drag.
It is fucked up, but when you ask someone,
My psycho gets upset though. Like I'm impassioned with them. Like, I'm like, dude, you're right, dude. Like, that's fucked up. You know, when the Black Panthers get all like aroused and they're all pissed off, I'm like, dude, like I completely understand you guys. Go ahead and do your thing. But the thing about it is, it's like I don't like it when white people get upset and they make a commotion that they're demonized. Like, both sides have very good points. Both sides have very good points. And
that's the issue I had with Beck, was like we all agreed with this point, and when I said if we come across people making these ridiculous arguments, I'm going to discourage them from making that argument, or I'm just going to dismiss them because it's so stupid. And I was like, I've never had such a hard time with someone I agreed with because we never moved the point on. And we just kept going in circles, and and we completely agreed with each other.
Well, Veckel's kind of a difficult person to talk to because he does tend to dodge questions. And even if you're trying to make a clear demarcation line between what he's saying and what he's implying, and he actually catches on to what you're doing, he won't do it.
Yeah, no, it ended up that hour that Psycho said we were talking beforehand of it. It was trying to get him to clarify what kind of argument was actually being offensive to him. Like what, and it.
Yeah, and all due respect to Veckel. And all due respect to Veckel, because I think he's great, but
absolutely.
I think his ego in a lot of cases gets in the way. You know, I think he feels that his voice needs to be heard so much that he like basically steps on an entire room to just try and get his words out. Which I should probably shut up at that point, but I think you guys.
I agree with you because I like Veckel. I mean, it is a cool cat to hang out.
And I'm actually going to agree with you on that, Rev. I think that, as a black man, he feels kind of obligated to take a stand during certain times, but unfortunately his past behavior has sullied his image to the point that people aren't going to believe him. The same thing actually happened with, what's his fucking face? He has the governor as the icon, Incorporated. And a couple of people actually mentioned this to me, is that Incorporated actually does study quite a bit of Pan-African history and Pan-African studies.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say he could touch me with that. But I would say he does know quite a bit. But the fact that he is a bit of a troll, well, he's a lot of a fucking troll.
Yeah.
He actually is offering something of substance and trying to educate people. It just comes across as bullshit because he's actually done a lot of that in the past. And so, it's like the boy who cried wolf.
No, you can
expect people to believe you.
But I'm listening to him still, so I don't know if that's true.
Well,
he comes in and takes the topic where he wants to take it, no matter what's going on in the room, and that's how he ends up trolling for the most part. The topic might be something ridiculous. I mean, they might actually be having a serious conversation at that point.
And he'll just come in, well, you see, there's some white people in an overpass, and they're fucking each other in the ass, and, I think they're doing it to distract black drivers and cause crashes and perpetuate black genocide, and, he'll say some stupid shit like that, and it's like, where the fuck did that come from? Like, who are you?
He trolls. He trolls when he feels like it's a bullshit conversation, but you're right, Drag. He has great points. Listen, I think he's cool. I like Ink. But stop the trolling, bro. If you're out there, just stop the trolling and put the truth out. The way you see it.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of how it is, and I can't blame people if people just see me trolling and bullshitting and doing tasty or something like that, then they're probably going to think that I'm just full of shit too. So, I definitely understand where people are coming from.
All right, no, I'll play it another time too.
Hello?
Is that Bob on ours or Nadia?
No, it's Jack. Yep, he muted. It's all good.
Oh, okay. I think he's watching the other hangout. But yeah, no, this is a topic that not too many people are well versed in, and I say that across the board, there aren't too many people, and I keep going into a lot of minority Facebook groups and I'm seeing
You
stuff
be
that's
in black
very
atheist groups? You in a
yeah.
lot of black atheist groups? I'm
Well,
probably in some of the same ones you in.
well, are you in the one owned by Mario Stanton?
I don't know which one that is.
That's just the one that's just black atheist. That's
Oh,
just
I'm
the
in that
most
one. Yeah, it got like
okay.
6. Yeah.
About 6,000 members. Okay.
Yeah. I'm in that one.
Yeah.
You
So
know, you in the science and everything. You need to go to the Amara Squad group. You really need to go up in there.
I think I
I'll
saw
type it out
that.
for you.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm on the Black Atheist page. Well, I was on there as Dragnaut for quite some time, but there was a schism that happened, and there is
This
now
group's right up your alley.
there's
You in the science.
Amon Ross. That name sounds so familiar.
Yeah, it does.
I can't remember who told me about it. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
looking it up right now.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good group for you. Trust me, you'll love it.
Amon Ross Scholarship.
Yep, that's it. You got
Okay.
like 15,000 up in there, or 10,000 or something like that. They got a decent amount.
Oh
up
yeah,
in there.
Alicia's in here. Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, Alicia was telling me about this.
Yeah, good group.
Yeah, we actually split off and made a Black Atheist science Black Atheist Laboratory Science and Technology or something like that, to just for folks who are more science inclined, and because there's so much fuckery. There's folks who I just one of the things I really love about Black Atheists really hate is that there's a wide variety of folks, and some of them are on that bullshit. I'm not gonna fucking lie. Some of them is just fucking stupid.
Well, you got a lot of strong opinions up in there, and some people, yeah.
That's a nice way of putting it.
A lot of new atheists up in there. You got a lot of those new atheists up in there, and they just, I know what you're talking about.
So I try to stay away. Mario wanted me to be the admin to the Black Atheist group, and I said, no, that's okay. I'm not going to do it. No.
Yeah, too much.
Not going to do it. But, no, it's the conversation of social justice overall. I think 2015 just beat that horse to fucking death.
Yeah.
It's
getting better, or are you getting it's getting worse?
As far as getting worse, to talk about the topic, because the first step,
yeah, because the PC blame the PC crowd. The PC crowd is what did it, and kind of just got people all just tired of hearing it, because everybody's offended about everything now.
Yeah,
every little thing everybody's offended about now.
People are tired of hearing
and that's the reason why Donald Trump is in the position he's in right now, is because of the PC crowd.
I kind of agree with that. I don't want to just lambaste one group of people out of convenience, because I think there's a shared responsibility. For me, from what I observed, is that there are a group of people who said, you know what, we're sick of these social injustices, these historical injustices. There's only been really one demographic, which is like white, male, Protestant, Christian, landowner, WASP, pretty much, that has not been oppressed. Every other demographic, every other, type of person has been oppressed.
But
so, it's come full circle. So now, with that being trumpeted, you have people saying, no, we're not going to talk about this, we're not going to go there. And so that forces the other group to then speak even louder. And so now you've had so polarizing groups, these really polarizing groups, and then that's kind of where we are now. And it's gotten to the point where I actually put a post in one open mind, free thought something group, and the post was along the lines of, well, there happens to be a scenario in all these discussions that I've seen, is that there are certain pitfalls, especially when it's going across racial lines. If people don't know what these pitfalls are, then the conversation stops, even if the people agree. I've literally sat and watched people that have identical positions on a topic disagree because they didn't understand certain nuances, such as cultural nuances. And I was going back and forth with a person who really didn't understand what I was saying. And what I was looking for was for a particular narrative. And this is, you either agree with me or you are a part of the enemy. And that's exactly what I found, sadly. And it's gotten to that point. There's no more this concept that there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's never one way to approach some type of social issue. The things didn't get to the way they are because of one avenue of approach. nothing gets to that point like that. There's always more complex things that are happening, even if you aren't aware of them. So I really hate when that, you know, we begin to have these conversations and people make it up along this really linear line that is fucking redundant. This really linear pathway
Drag, you're brilliant, man. You are fucking brilliant.
You know, I do too much thinking. That's the problem, and so I end up pissing off a lot of folks.
Although I think that's like a good way to have enemies.
I mean, I have lots of enemies and lots of fans. I have people that added me on Facebook just because they didn't like what I was saying. I honestly said, you know what? If people are going to express themselves, let them express themselves and don't censor them. Because if with what they're saying fits your narrative, literally, they are providing the evidence for you. You trying to shut them up is only going to hinder you overall. So if I'm saying that there are groups of atheists that are making these correlations that are fallacious and they're trying to trumpet themselves as, you know, progressive and skeptics, then I need examples. So I don't want Atheism and Unstoppable to be censored. I don't want Autopsy 87 to be censored. I don't want any of them to be censored.
Yeah, me too. I fight against censorship. I don't care if people up here spitting the most racist thing in the world. Let them go ahead and spit whatever it is they got to spit, because it, you know, like at the end of the day, I hate censorship. That's why I get so ticked off when I start getting muted and everything else in these rooms, because it drives me nuts. Like,
right. And these racist fucks, right? If they bring that shit into these rooms, they should be prepared to have the hammer brought down on them. And exactly. That's why I think, Psycho, what you did a while back with somebody that's in here right now was justified. So.
You guys are so quick to call a white person a racist versus a black person. I don't think that's fair. When a white person's trying to make a legitimate point.
Well, if you hear certain things that you know, your brain works and you hear that shit, it's clearly racist. It should be called out.
No, I'm just saying. Like, I think black people have more leeway than white people have when we're dealing with issues of race. And I don't think that's fair.
Well, when you say well, hold on, watch this. So here's a good example of what I'm talking about. So when you say racist, what is your definition in this context?
Exactly.
When I say racism?
Yeah, when you're talking about someone being racist, what is your definition in this context?
It's very simple. Racism just means that you believe one race to be superior than the other. That's what it.
So it's pretty much similar to prejudice, being prejudiced against someone.
I've already made an open declaration. I do not believe that one race is superior than the other. Yeah,
I'm a firm believer.
Yeah, I'm be a racist because I said there are biological differences. Because I said there are races. There are 3 different races. Because I make arguments for de facto segregation, I'm considered to be a racist, and that's bullshit.
Like, I'm about to say, I'm a firm believer that black people are incapable of being racist. They can be prejudiced. Black people can be prejudiced, but I'm a firm believer that they can't be racist, because I believe racism is an institution of power, and black people are not in power to institutionalize racism upon another race.
Obama can't be racist?
They can be prejudiced, but I don't believe they can be racist.
Obama can't be racist. He's got like the ultimate power.
What happened?
He ultimately answers to the Senate, though, so he
well, I mean, he has power, though. I mean, he has certain power.
Well, let's see this, and this kind of illustrates what I'm talking about. What you're talking about is not the same thing that Psycho's talking about. They have the colloquialism versus the sociological definition. So and that's what I wanted to illustrate.
Those are just two different. Those are just two different meanings of the term racism. What Psycho is talking about is a set of institutionalized practices of discrimination and so forth. But there's also the thesis that a race, for example, is superior to another race, right? That's another meaning of the term racism. So, I mean, in that sense, so you might just be talking past each other.
Exactly.
Because you're using the word, the word is, you're each using a different meaning of the term racist.
And that's when I mentioned pitfalls, that's one of them. That is one of the main ones that I've watched. is that when people don't understand cultural nuances. When a black person says racism, they're almost always talking about institutionalized racism. Right. They may not say it, but that's what's implied, because anybody can be prejudiced. If you actually replace racist with prejudice, I don't think anyone's going to disagree with you, because you can be prejudiced against your own people. That's where we get shaded.
Exactly.
I was in an all-black school, and I was discriminated against. So, like, I felt probably the same thing that black people feel when it comes to white people.
Sure,
so,
and
like,
I can't deny that from you. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with you. You were probably discriminated against in some way, shape, or fashion.
And so, like, when I make comments about de facto segregation, people, like, especially white people, are like, "Oh no, I know you didn't just say that," and I'm like, "No, like, I really believe that that each community, especially when it comes to schools, would just be better dealing with their own race." And
well, Dionysus, like I said earlier on your Dionysus, I think it's the phrasing that you use.
Yeah, you really bad phrasing.
You have a bunch of nuance. You have a bunch of nuance to what you're saying, but you make it oversimplified, and when you do, you make it end up being sounding like this ridiculous, harsh position that crazy people take.
So it's like, I'll give you a perfect example, Dionysus. It's like if scientist Sam and I were working on my research paper that's coming up in a few months, and I say, you know what, I got a final solution for this. Scientist Sam is Jewish. So
there it is. Yeah.
So me using that phrase with him kind of brings upon a negative connotation. My phrasing really has to align with my intention, so that's what you have to keep in mind. No, and I understand what you're talking about, Dionysus, and you will find that a lot of black folks agree with you, especially if they're the black liberation type. They will definitely agree with you on that, and there's actually studies to support what you're saying. Black students will actually excel when they have a person of color teaching them. It's about having positive role models, so on and so forth, and how it's like some child psychology bullshit. So there's actually studies to support that, and what you're saying is correct. People of a similar type are going to just naturally gravitate to one another, because there's inherently nothing wrong with de facto segregation. I'm always going to choose veterans over civilians. That's just always going to happen. That's just a bias that I have and I've developed because of my indoctrination. If there's a minority who is also a veteran, I will probably choose them over white counterparts, because I can relate to them more. It's not because I view someone lesser, it's because of just relation. If someone's an atheist and you are with a bunch of Christians, then you will probably gravitate toward the atheists, and vice versa. So on the surface, there's really nothing bad about de facto segregation. That's just something that we as humans tend to do.
Tribal mentality, right?
If you remember, I didn't even really trip too much when you did the whole de facto segregation. If you go back and listen to that hangout, I actually reiterated that there. Like, I didn't, like, when you said that, I was like on the fence, because I know de facto segregation already exists. It's not highly promoted or whatever, but it does exist already. And so, but I knew you was walking a fine line when you did it, and then you started talking some other shit, and that's when I got pissed off.
Yeah, like neutering black women, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
When I said that after 2 kids, I mean, like, I'm already giving them. I'm not saying 2 is the magic.
Dionysus, bro, come on, be honest, man.
2 is the magic number, but I'm just saying, white or black or Asian, after 2 kids, they should be cut off.
Yes, but the way it was brought up, I think you can admit. I hope you can admit, Dio, that the perception that Psycho was having was warranted. Because you can look at my picture. I'm as white as fucking snow, but I heard what he was talking about, and that was horse shit, man. That was crap. Go ahead.
Well, in my heart of hearts, I did not mean to offend any black or any minority. I just meant to say that that it's unfair to let someone in poverty reproduce ad infinitum, whether that be black. I know white Christians who say to themselves, "Well, I'm going to have many kids as God will allow me to have." Like, I know white. So I think it's just fucked up that anybody should be allowed to have kids ad infinitum.
Well, that's a separate topic that needs to be handled. Sans the whole racial issue. I think it really needs to be its own discussion, because now that you mentioned, I have a friend of mine who is Christian and who is white, and she's trying to increase her family exponentially, and she has been advised against it because there's only one breadwinner, and he has a decent job, but not the best job in the world, and he's also in school. So on the surface, yes, I do agree with you that there should be limits, but when we have that conversation, that's going to be a conversation unto itself, and it's going to be so heavy because there's so many things to consider in that I think it really needs to stand alone, and there's definitely going to be a lot of emotions going around when you're trying to
you're just into the segregation, man. You just want to segregate things off.
Well, that's what happened with Psycho. He kind of
No joking with you.
Flow smoothly, and the de facto segregation got mixed up with not being able to have more than 2 kids. And I can understand why he got emotional. I would have gotten emotional. So that's all that happened.
I did, Russ. I did, and I shouldn't have any dog in this fight, right? But the way it was brought up, and the way you followed it up with what you said, you know, it was fucked up, bro. I'm just.
Think about how I feel, for example. I went to college. My girlfriend went to college. We both went to college. We both put on having kids in order to better our careers and to better our intellect. And we wanted to have kids. And then when I got fucked in the school system, I chose not to have kids because the situation was dire enough to not want to have kids. So I do get pissed when I see other people who shouldn't be having kids having kids. I'm sorry, I can't help that.
Yeah, but not everybody plans that, right? Like, yes, some people, I mean, they know the consequences of it. Some don't. Some are young enough that they don't have. It's not that they physically can't make these long-term choices, right? Like their brain, their frontal cortex and things aren't developed enough. So I mean, it's not always black and white like that.
Yeah,
well, that's why other people have to make it for them.
Oh, that like I said, there's so much that actually goes into that you can't just say, well, if you're ignorant to something, then we are going to sterilize you. That's like, where do you draw that line? Once you open that door, that's a horrible door.
When you're 32 and if you have a job making so much in between 12 o'clock and 3 p.m.
I don't have any kids. I'm giving the public 2 kids. So how dare you guys come here and paint me as a fucking Nazi when you guys can have at least 2 kids? I'm saying I don't have any kids.
Dude, anybody can go back and listen to that hangout, and you're encouraging people to
hang on. He said
sterilize.
as a Nazi. I mean, I don't think we're doing that at all. I don't think
we're... but he's everybody can go back and listen to what you said, Dial. You were encouraging people to have their tubes tied or their whatever.
Yes, what's wrong with that? I'm giving you 2 kids.
Okay, all right.
What's wrong with that? One for the man, one for the woman. What's wrong with that?
I'm just saying it sounds like you're trying to deny something you did say. Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, and life isn't this boxed in system like that. We're not ones and zeros.
Yeah. I mean, for me to tell my friend and her husband how many kids they can have, that's taking away their autonomy. In all honesty, I can't imagine what type of system that they would want me to live under.
Yeah. No, if that were reciprocated. We're talking about planet Earth here. I don't give a fuck about their autonomy when I'm giving 2 kids. One for the man, one for the female.
You guys have to understand he's pro.
This isn't like waiting for the cable guy, right? Like that's what I'm saying. It's not like this systematic thing that you're making it out to be. Like yes, maybe the world will be a better place. All we can do is encourage certain values in people, right? And that's what we try to do. And otherwise, you're like Drag said, you're taking away their autonomy.
My issue more so with well, everyone can have 2 kids, cool. Then once that door is open, where does it stop? Where does the buck stop after that point?
Exactly.
Because if you can literally start defining what people's lives are and what their families consist of, what can you then define? Should I be able to?
If I remarry, can I have 2 more kids?
Or here's a good one. Wait, here's a good one, Dionysus. If we need,
the Chinese did with no problem. The only mistake they didn't consider was the fact that somebody's going to have to take care of their parents. That was the only mistake the Chinese committed. But there was no slippery slope. No, we're going to start really oppressing you guys after this. I mean, it was okay. It worked. So no, I don't.
It worked for who?
It worked for the entire country and probably the world, not to have like too many.
Did you poll them? Like, how did you come to that conclusion?
It's like 5 seconds to me starting to troll Dionysus at this point.
And that is boxing them into a system. If you see like how the Chinese system work, that's exactly what they try to do, is box them into this predictable system.
They have no choice, Xbox. They have to do that. There's limited resources, man. You're going to create an environment where they're suffering worse than South Korea.
There is, and that's why I say we encourage it, right? Like, if not, we'll go extinct. I mean,
by the way, what about Jewish people like myself? How many kids should we have?
Welcome, brother. Good to see you.
Jews can have one.
Kids for Jewish people.
Brother, you
They can have 1.5 if they're Russian.
You Jewish?
Yeah, man. By blood.
Oh, I thought you. I ain't gonna lie. I thought you was Arabic all this time.
It's the name. It's how you wrote your name out.
Yeah.
No, actually, it was that argument that time you had with Godless. I really thought you was Arabic.
Oh yeah, I'm just kind of, sort of pro-Palestinian on some issues, and yeah.
I was about to say, are you anti-Zionist? I'm like,
a little. I don't agree. Yeah, okay. I'm a progressive kind of Jewish person.
He agrees. He agrees that the Zionist government is doing some hardcore bullshit to the Palestinians.
Like Trotsky, you know.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to not Reuven? Fuck. He was in the Israeli army. God, I can't remember his name. He hangs out with 13 heathens.
Oh, Paranor, something like that.
Yeah, he hangs out with them. Shit.
I can't think of it either.
He would stir up some deep shit with me if he would find out about it. He would probably be so pissed.
Well, no, yeah, because the person I'm thinking of is completely. He is a Zionist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't hate.
Like, have you interacted with him in a while, Drake?
Not in a while.
I don't hate Zionists. Like, I don't hate the idea. I find the idea very beautiful. I just find that how it was done, sort of implicated, sort of sloppy.
What's a Zionist?
It's a person who believes in a national liberation for Jewish people and having their independent homeland in Israel.
Yeah. You got Zion Christians out there.
Yeah.
Well, we call them Christian Dominionists here in America, which is kind of scary. But then again, it's like, well, I mean, if that's part of their, if that's part of their theology, then of course they're gonna go try to do it. So, I stopped looking at that sort of thing as being just nefarious. It's these Christians agents is going out and doing things. It's just like, well, if they fucking believe it, then they're gonna make it happen, like anybody else. So. Yep. I think Google Plus has done good things for my anti-theism. I actually enjoy, and I actually learned quite a bit for that.
Yeah, there's a big difference between a quote-unquote Christian Zionist that says, okay, the Jewish people should have a homeland. I mean, it's a sliver of land the size of fucking New Jersey. I think they should have that right to that land, but there's a difference between those and those that say, yeah, every single thing that the Zionist government does, i.e., phosphorus bombing children in Gaza, that's bullshit. Go ahead, brother.
That's an ideologue, though, like in any form that they're like an extremist almost.
Well, it's kind of a similar scenario where when I talk to some folks who are of the Black liberation flavor, well, there are different degrees of Black liberation, and some of them want to simply focus on empowering other Black folks and working on our own communities. Instead of moving out of the ghetto, you rejuvenate the ghetto so you can help prevent gentrification. And then there are some that says, fuck it, cut the United States in half, you leave the white folks over there, and Black folks stay over here. Fuck you. There's different degrees.
I'm part of the liberation movement myself, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going too far a little. That's going a little too far. A little,
It depends who you talk to. For me personally, I do agree with quite a bit of Black liberation ideology, but the issue with me is that some of the same issues would come up. So if we're trying to remove, let's say, Black folks from an area where the police are being very predatory, so let's create our own police force and our own societies and their own communities, well, the same problem's going to happen because you have black officers out there perpetuating the same type of nonsense.
Yeah.
And so if you don't want to be discriminated against white folks, well, bring your businesses to, new Blacktopia, and then in new Blacktopia, you will have to deal with colorism and shadism. So
You'll
some
be
of
the
the
main
same issues.
I support black businesses. I support black businesses. I think there ain't enough of that going around.
Well, businesses come in all colors, man.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that it has to be understood when saying it's supporting black businesses is supporting the businesses that are in the downtrodden communities so that they don't go out of business and the Walmart replaces it that pays them shitty and they stay in the same situation.
Right.
Exactly.
Well,
keeping the money keeping the economy circulating within the community or whatever, so people can, come up.
Well, wouldn't all logical people say that racism at its core is fucking bullshit? Because aren't we all the human quote-unquote race? Am I missing something? You know what I mean?
Well, in a perfect world, yes.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, yes.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in.
That's fucking true, brother. You're right.
Yep. And there's many justifications. There's so many factors driven in it or dribbled in there that it's very tough to kind of deal with them. It's very tough to kind of break through lots of stigmas in society and personal issues that some people hold. I mean, look, there's black Confederates, Black Confederates.
Don't ask me about them, man.
I don't.
Make no fucking
Don't
sense.
get me started on them. Please don't get me started on them.
I can't feel like we're trying. I really try to get into the heads of some of the guys because I think I knew a few, and they subscribed to a really interesting brand of I don't know if we want to call it philosophy, but it's I think it's a lot of the anti-black racism that is out there. They just kind of internalized it and said, I am going to be the new Negro exception. And
survivalist attitude.
Yes.
So that's just how they take it. So I said, well, that's the only way I can combat that is with empirical evidence. Say, if you're going to if you're going to assert this and call me and my son fucking coons or whatever, then I'm going to address it accordingly. Because I don't think it ultimately helps anything. It just helps them reconcile their place in this society, or more so than anything else.
What I love most of all is when people try to say that the Confederate States were not racist. That's it's like
Well, here's the thing, and I had this conversation with somebody. So
go ahead.
So when we're talking about the Confederate States, undeniably the Confederates wanted to keep slaves. That was in the Cornerstone speech, which.
But that was not what the war was all about.
No, that's not what it was all about. That was one part of I think like the 5th or 6th sentence in the Cornerstone speech.
Yeah,
that's undeniable.
Money in the railroads was way above slavery, as far as what they was fighting over. They was fighting over the railroads, which was a big part of the country at the time because there wasn't no airplanes, wasn't no cars, and that's how people traveled. And of course, along with the railroads came money and everything else, and they was fighting over control of that.
And land grants, land grants and who controls the land, basically.
Yeah, because if you say, well, we're just going to make one centralized government, well, that takes away your bargaining power, because any state can just say, well, fuck you, imagine if
a very
we did not
Jewish
have a
thing
union.
to do.
It's a very Jewish thing. Just imagine if Texas had its own bargaining power just based on what's in Texas, it would be a powerhouse. And so it's beneficial for Texas to not be among the union, and it makes sense. And that's why I'll definitely say I understand. But in a historical context, when you have people co-opting symbols, the meanings of the symbol changes. The Nazi symbol didn't used to be the Nazi symbol. I think it was like some Hindu symbol but no one's ever going to really acknowledge that. Like when you see that, you're always going to associate that negative connotation with it.
Just like the Confederate flag wasn't the Klan symbol, but now when you see it, you automatically think of the Klan. And
I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's what happened. Its image was sullied, and I don't I don't get into debates with people about symbolism. It's for me, it's fucking pointless. It's
It's
symbolism.
pointless. It is. It's pointless. I know.
I mean, your symbol. This Star Wars cup that my wife bought me. I can show this to somebody, and someone will say that it means fucking the devil is going to raise an army, and he'll have a red pitchfork and a man with gold nipples. Exactly. So it represents different things to different people. So getting in a debate about it is ultimately futile.
Yeah. And what was the debate even about? He was like, there are red cups. That's it. Satan controls everything.
You talking about the Starbucks thing?
Yes. He's like, what's it about red cups?
It was over the cups not saying Merry Christmas on the cups.
Oh my
Did they ever say Merry Christmas?
Did they ever?
I forgot. I don't even know. I don't do Starbucks, so don't get me to lying.
Yeah, I don't do it either. You know.
I do know that's what the main argument was all about. I thought it was kind of pointless and frivolous because they had the Christmas colors on it. Like if it doesn't say Merry Christmas on it, is it really that big of a deal? I mean, historical evidence shows that's not even Jesus' real birthday.
Exactly. And it's bullshit.
What are we talking about?
Debatable.
It's bullshit fucking arguments for just people to make money on whatever. We're persecuted. Give me a fucking break.
And that's what really annoyed me about Joshua Fernstein. If you actually go to his Facebook page, you'll see my Dragnot profile going after him. And he actually ended up blocking my comments after a while because I would call him out on that. And I knew he was pandering to people who legitimately believed that there was a Christian persecution going on in America that was based on nothing that's his fucking word and just fear-mongering. Like, he loved to fear-monger Christians, and that lined his pockets. And so he was preying on Christians in order to get money. And I'm like, that's fucked. Like, why would you do that? Like, if you legitimately believe this.
Dragnot, I know I will sound like this dishonest person, but would you say that's like you were earlier talking about all of these PC political correctness SJW bullshit, right? Like I am a progressive person. I'm also a feminist. I would identify as, and wouldn't you say that also like the SJW narrative from extreme perspective, like in a very oversimplified perspective, can do something of the kind of the vibe that is fear mongering basically against anything that's progressive.
Yeah, you can take almost any ideology and take it to its extreme and just fearmonger the shit out of everyday life. And I think one of the examples of that I saw from people who are really, ranting and raving about the anti-woman environment that's out there was what was it? It was a claim that offices were kept at a certain temperature in order to dissuade females from working there.
Shit.
That's foolishness.
Well, I read it. I read it, and I showed it to some of my friends who are feminists.
And they laughed. They laughed.
They laughed their fucking asses off. And so, they thought it was fucking stupid. And so I was like, well, just looking on the surface of it, I don't know. I don't work in an office. I don't like office work. That's stupid. So
I don't know nobody who will quit, especially if it's a decent paying job, just because it was too hot in the office. I mean, they would get a fan or something. I mean, it's not that serious.
I don't know anybody in that who would. My mother works in human resources for 20 years. She don't care if she wanted her to be at work naked. She would go. So that doesn't deter her. And
I had a nice paying job at one point, and they didn't ever turn the heater on, and it had I did the drafting for big pressure vessel things, so they had big workshop with doors always open, right? So outside is open, there's snow outside, freezing there. I'm at a little space heater under my desk.
Horrible.
So
Atheist
sitting
person.
there working on the computer, but it paid enough that I didn't bitch.
That's it.
Yeah, but there wasn't anything to support it. It was just the notion, shit's cold or shit's too hot, and no, that's I hate when that happens because it takes away from legitimate issues. Where
legitimate women issue,
we do have a society here in America that just tells women how to avoid being raped, and that's something that I had heard, but it never sunk into me until I reviewed my my lessons as growing up from a preteen, adolescent to a young adult to a man, whatever, and consistently, I saw nothing but propaganda towards the idea that women just have to avoid the inevitable rape train, and I think it's ridiculous. And so for me, looking at certain things and knowing, and like I said, this is just personal anecdotes. Talking to other guys, if a woman is unconscious, she's fucking fair game. If she's drunk, she's fair game. That's what you had to do in order to get sex, and it was acceptable. And as bad as that is to say, that's the society that's been like that for quite some time.
Yeah. Look. What I say.
Hold on a second, brother. I agree with Greg on it. Like, I even kind of like felt like the need to defend Bill Cosby in the sense that that culture was vastly.
Don't do that.
Hold on a second. Let me finish speaking, you ADHD kid. I was trying to defend Bill Cosby in the sense that the culture in which he lived in was vastly different than the culture that we live in today. Like, the mores have changed dramatically. But with that being said, I think it's fair game for anybody to be prosecuted for doing such type of behavior, right? So.
Yeah. What I would say for women in this like era and in this day and age, what I would say, do anything in your personal ability to avoid the quote-unquote rape train. But in the same way,
you also shouldn't be going to those guys' house 1 o'clock in the morning either.
Well, yeah. In the same way, avoid it. But in the same way, don't dismiss that it's a problem. That the problem is rape. The problem is murder. Decreasing the kind of chances of being murdered or being robbed or being raped is a good thing, and it should be done. And in any way possible, basically.
If you don't plan on having sex with a guy, you shouldn't be at his house 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm just gonna say that.
Well, and here's the issue, guys, is that when y'all say things like that, on the surface to folks, it seems like it's just trying to take away from the responsibility of the guy obtaining consent.
Not at all.
On the surface, that's what it's
we're not trying to blame the victim, but he's right. Like, what are you doing at a guy's place at 1 o'clock in the morning?
And I understand what you're saying.
Pillow
So
fights.
here's something. Well, here's something that my cousin studies. I forgot what it's called, but there is some name of a phenomenon that's being studied within the realm of criminology and I think a little bit of sociology, is the measure of culpability a person has for getting themselves into a scenario in which a crime is occurring. Mm-hmm. So if you antagonize someone to a certain point and then they take a knife and they fucking stab you and they react. Yeah. How culpable are you for that particular action? Because there were things that led up to it. And so that's kind of a controversial point being made, especially in this environment, but it does need to be talked about.
I agree with it.
Some degree of personal responsibility.
I don't think it's a black and white thing either. I think it can be both, right? You can be the victim and the aggressor, or the provoker and the...
That's also...
it shouldn't take away from what's happening. It should not take away from what we know that is very prevalent, and it's just this notion that obtaining sex from a woman isn't necessarily contingent upon her consent, and that's just something that we have that getting people to acknowledge, I think, is the first step, because even for women.
Do you treat them separately in those decisions, or do you treat this as like one unit decision?
It's hard for me to say at this point because I need to study more on it. Because for me, obtaining sex from my wife is different than I would obtain sex from somebody on the street. Right. There's so much that goes into how we do courtship now that's being revised. Like anything that you knew, because my own mother told me that if you treat a girl nice, then she'll go out with you, and you say that shit now, you get somebody will get big red on you. But my own mother told me that. My own mother.
Yeah.
So
that's how it was. She was younger.
That's how things worked. And so, now we need to look at where did that dialogue come from? Where did that notion come from? How did this come to be? Because now that things are changing, we have to find out where we're going with it.
Well, for fuck's sake, you have
down.
people,
Where the boundaries are. Yeah.
you know, shit's getting so complex or something. Like, like for me, from my own perspective, I don't see it as that complex for some reason. But for some strange ass reason, you have all those PUAs out there, all those like Rush V, people like Rush V that so overcomplicate shit. They think that the whole notion of getting some tail is just so complicated, so like it's some fucking rocket science or something. It's like,
well, because people ruin it for us. People, we live. We have to also remember we live in a Puritan society. So within that Puritan society, we've had to find ways to work around what would be deemed as the normal way to go about coitus.
And we end up with sex in the air.
Yeah, I mean, we end up where we are now. Just think of like the Middle East. They can't go and proposition a woman for sex, and she can't actually really consent to it. There's all these little cultural bullshit.
Unless you're married.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can't do anything unless you're married. But how do you see the bitch if she got a fucking veil on? And it's like, you know, like you know, it's that kind of stuff they have to deal with. So they end up having sex with goats and shit like that in order to find a workaround. It happens. I'm sorry, you know. That's
oh boy,
a lot.
Yeah.
That's a whole other sect of something. I personally don't understand, but like
ghost fuckers.
It goes into prison culture as well, like where. Not the ones that like do it for power, but the ones that do it for sex. Like they you know, have a 25-year sentence, but they, for some reason, they don't please themselves enough, right? Like
sexuality is power, though.
Like they have to get it from somewhere else.
Sexuality is power. That's why I think sexuality does bring you power, personally.
Well, yeah, I mean, acknowledging your own sexuality, I think, is a very powerful thing, and to express it upon someone else, I guess, is a bit of an affirmation of who you are as a person. But
and I take it to the extent that like I don't like being touched at all, right? Like I have an issue psychologically with being touched, period. But unless I'm with my wife and we're being intimate, right? And that touch is different than you know, my own touch, right? Like there's it causes emotional reactions in me, right? That aren't there and are never there if I'm just by myself, not just doing sexy, but just if I'm sitting talking on Google Plus, right? Like
yeah, it's understandable. Yeah.
I wonder if that bond has something to do with it as well. Like,
yeah. I was just about, like, I didn't mean to cut you off. Like, I apologize if it kind of, like, I tend to cut off people
No.
for no good reason. Anyways, yeah, I mean, shit. Like, I've heard a scientific theory that claims that, like, when you and a girl mate, right? Like, you and your girlfriend or your wife mate, you have, like, so many hormones, like, in the air, or, like, meanwhile, it's, like, in, you know, that are not occurring to you while you're, you know, wanking one off, you know? It's, you know, so you get a different feeling overall, basically, from that scientifically somehow. So it's a bond thing, I suppose, I guess, yeah.
Okay.
I know. I mean, human courtship is an interesting topic. It's just we're now in the midst of trying to redefine our culture, so there's going to be some growing pains inevitably. That's just how things are, and that's kind of what I see this as, because in the beginning I saw, okay, well, this is great. We're redefining things. Hopefully there'll be a better society for my son to grow up in, and so he won't have to deal with some of the issues I had to grow up being not black enough, and then being too black, and, you know, all types of other issues. And, you know, should he be a homosexual, you know, hopefully he would be treated the same as someone who's heterosexual. But
or transsexual, or anything,
or transsexual, or pan, or demi, or a, or whatever, unicorn.
Which is my bae Lacey Green is pansexual, so.
You know, whatever may happen, but, you know, this is just the like I said, the growing pains that we're going to have to go through.
Pansexual.
Just about anything.
If it has a hole, you're going for it. If it's
you know, actually, like I don't know about disease wise, like if I don't know how even relevant